Orthodox Ukraine is being actively and purposefully pushed into the Western religious sphere. This shift can become more powerful than the union with Catholicism in the 16th century. Why are we saying so? Let's figure it out. The UGCC has resolved to switch to the Gregorian calendar. This is to happen from September 1st, 2023. In May, the OKU is preparing to make the same decision. Its spokesman, Eustratis Zora, says that they made the case for a positive decision. On the eve of 2023, the leaders of the units and the OKU met and synchronized the transition to a new style. One can say these are their internal affairs and have nothing to do with the believers of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. However, that's not the case at all. Not so long ago, the UGCC under Menko said that the transition to a new style is beneficial only to Moscow, since it will cause a split and perpetuate it for the next century.
Ми бачимо, що це питання розділяє більше, ніж єднає. Якщо ми хочемо законсервувати той стан розділення, який є зараз, то давайте завтра проведемо календарну реформу, змінимо повністю, бо стосується не тільки Різдва, а всього церковного календаря. Змінимо календар, отримаємо старокалендарний розкол і законсервуємо ситуацію, як вона є, ще на найближчі 100 років. Чого, власне, напевно, хотіла би Москва. Будемо ми їй робити такий подарунок? Чи будемо трошки мудрішими?
Now the answer is yes. Their decision to urgently change the calendar will be a gift to Moscow. The war allegedly changed the needs of believers, and everyone is now longing for a new style. As for the OKU spokesman, he speaks with the same fervor, but this time about the importance of switching to a new calendar. In fact, this is not at all a decision only of the OKU and the UGCC. The Ukrainian government plays with them in one team. Before the new year, the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy, together with the Ministry of Digital Transformation, launched a poll in the DIA application on the date Ukrainians should celebrate Christmas. Why Christmas? The answer is simple. Because the holiday has been discussed for several years as a transition point to a complete change of the calendar. In turn, the government's initiative raises a lot of questions, since DIA is an electronic service of administrative public services. In other words, it looked the same as if when receiving a passport or a marriage certificate in the administrative center, you were suddenly offered to vote about the church. Such attention to religious issues in a country where the church is separated from the state by the constitution is amazing. But this is only at first glance. Initiatives like this don't just come out of the thin air. It is important from what perspective the survey was presented.
Для України дотримання юліанського календаря є ще свого роду спадщиною Російської імперії. Проте останнім часом дедалі більше людей переходять на відзначення Різдва 25 грудня разом з християнами світу, а дехто взагалі святкує обидві дати, що дозволено у нас законом.
Цей процес прискорюється, в тому числі і через те, що ніхто не хоче святкувати Різдво спільно з Москвою.
Actually, not only the Russian and Ukrainian churches, but also the Jerusalem, Polish, Georgian, Serbian, and Mount Athos live today according to the Julian calendar. However, our government is silent about it. By its interpretation, the Julian calendar is bad, since it is about Moscow and the Russian Empire, while the new calendar is good, since these are Christians worldwide. Therefore, a simple political technology in two moves can be traced here. First, the idea of a new church calendar is imposed on people. Second, then this idea is served as a request of the society. People ostensibly demand it.
Я не бачу тут суттєвих, так мовити, великих дискусій. Тут є очікування суспільства. Нами було проведено опитування в дії стосовно цього питання.
A little later, the minister writes, the reform of the liturgical calendar is already overdue, and today is the time to introduce drastic changes. Nevertheless, why did the authorities show such a great concern for the church calendar? Andriy Yurosh, former head of the State Department for Religious Affairs and now ambassador to the Vatican, answers this. It turns out that the transition to a new style is a matter of ideology and politics, and this is Ukraine's gratitude to the West for its support in the war.
Це питання культурно-ідеологічне. Ми є всі частиною західного світу, і тому ми маємо підтвердити свою належність. Це ще й, так би мовити, форма певної подяки, яку зараз наша держава відчуває від більшості країн західної духовної ойкумени у цій жахливій боротьбі. Це дуже потужний імпульс, що матиме відгумін для всього духовного простору нашої держави.
In the 16th, 17th centuries, when the right bank Ukraine was under the rule of the Commonwealth, attempts were already made to make Ukrainians a part of the Western spiritual ecumeny. To put it simply, to destroy orthodoxy here and make Ukraine Catholic. Then only the intercession of the Zaporizhia Cossacks helped to preserve the Orthodox faith in Ukraine. The reformatting attempt failed. Now, due to the invasion of the Russian Federation, we can see that a new attempt is budding. However, today the situation is quite different. Constantinople and Rome are talking with might and main about the imminent concelebration and unification. It is slated for 2025, the year of the anniversary of the First Ecumenical Council. The Pontiff and Patriarch Bartholomew arranged to have a common celebration of Easter. They have already made dozens of statements about future unity, and not only between Rome and the Phanar. Pope Francis calls for unity of all denominations, so does Patriarch Bartholomew. Still, this is a matter of the distant future, while the unification of the structures of Rome and the Phanar should be tested in Ukraine tomorrow. The head of the UNIAID, Sviatoslav Shevchuk, upholds this point.
Наша церква змагається, щоб ті здобутки, які на вселенському рівні вже є такими очевидними, ми могли втілювати на нашому місцевому рівні. Як помісна церква українського народу ми хочемо внести ті плоди пошуку вселенської єдності у християнський церковний контекст нашої батьківщини. Діалог, який би остаточно допровадив нас до повної і видимої єдності.
It turns out that today a large-scale religious and political project is being implemented in Ukraine with the participation of Rome, the Phanar, the UNIAID, the OKU, and the secular authorities of Ukraine. Perhaps the repressions of the authorities against the UOC can be explained by this project, rather than all its mystical relation with Moscow. After all, if it's possible to drive believers into the OKU and then unite them with the UNIAID, then the whole of Ukraine will become a global testing ground for the running in of a certain single confession. A Christian will say, well, after all, unity is good. Everyone must be happy. This will be true if those who have fallen away from the church return to its fold. However, it's not so. Instead, unity, there can be only a certain single hodgepodge of confessions in which everyone will retain their heresies and delusions. For example, the head of the Phanar Archdiocese in the United States believes that all religions are myriad paths leading to one place. The head of the Phanar believes that its task is to build bridges between different faiths. With such rhetoric gaining momentum, ecumenical services today have become commonplace. Here is a Catholic investment serving at the liturgy in the Ternopil Cathedral of the Orthodox Church of Ukraine. Here is a single Eucharist of the OKU and Lutherans in Hamburg. Ecumenical services are now held almost every week. Here, Patriarch Bartholomew and the hierarchs of the Phanar are praying in the Anglican Cathedral in London. Here is the concelebration of the Phanar, Rome, the OKU and the UGCC in Kiev. Here is the service of the Phanar, Catholics and Protestants in New York. Here is the worship of the OKU, Catholics, Phanar and Protestants in Istanbul. These are all Overtown windows. They blur the very concept of Christ Church. After all, if all religions are equal, then why adhere to the Orthodox faith at all? Moreover, is it really so necessary to rely on the Holy Scriptures? For example, in relation to Sodom's sins. The Synod of the Anglican Church decided to bless LGBT couples in churches. Now the authorities are vigorously trying to persuade the Church to approve assisted suicide and euthanasia. Similar processes are in full swing among Catholics and Protestants. But all this is the Western spiritual ecumeny of which we, Ukrainians, are prepared to become a part. Do we need such a future? Maybe we'd better turn our minds to the great wealth of the Orthodox faith that we receive from the monks of the caves, Job of Pataiv, Jonah of Kiev, Kuksha of Odessa, and many other great saints of our Holy Land. Maybe this is the Western ecumeny that should seek wisdom in our Orthodox churches and monasteries. It so happened that Christianity is in crisis today. The Russian church has become an appendage of the state military machine. Most of Western Christianity has yielded to the imposed gender and LGBT ideology. In Ukraine, the Church of Christ is being persecuted, but this only makes her stronger and more united. Yes, the authorities have their plans for us. But if God is for us, who can be against us?